Broncos country, after a very difficult week, I think we can all use a little bit of a distraction with football. And here in week 2, the Broncos are traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get started. I hope you all enjoy. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below if you do enjoy this video and you enjoy my previews, as the support is greatly appreciated. I love doing this. I love making videos, so if you could help me out by subscribing and leaving a like, that would mean the absolute world to me. And let's go ahead and let's get started with this preview. As always, no matter who you are, Jesus loves you. And let's jump straight into this. The current records for the teams: the Broncos, we are 1-0, tied for first in the AFC West after a little bit of a shaky win. I still think we're knocking that rust off. And the Colts are 1-0, tied for first in the AFC South, and they came off a very dominant win over the Miami Dolphins. So jumping in to my keys to victory, you're going to notice that a majority of them are for the offense, because I think the defense, if they play very similar to how they played in week 1, I have a good feeling about this game. The first thing, though, we need to do is to protect the football. We turned the football over 4 times against the Tennessee Titans. Bo threw 2 picks, Bo had a fumble, and then, of course, Marvin Mims, he muffed a punt. Those were the 4 turnovers. So we can't have that. Ideally, we have no turnovers, but we have to protect the ball, and we have to limit the turnovers. The second thing we need to do is we need to test the Colts secondary. Cornerback Jalen Jones and cornerback Charvarius Ward, they're both out for this game, so we have got to test that Colts secondary. Bo has to be able to throw it on time, in rhythm, and just be able to deliver the football and deliver strikes down the field. The third thing we need to do is feed running backs RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. They both played very, very well in week 1 when we actually started to hand the ball off more to them in the second half. Of course, RJ Harvey had that 50-yard burst. Was it 50 yards? I think it was about 50 yards. But he had that long burst down the field. And then J.K. Dobbins was very efficient and very effective, kind of chunking the way down the field, and of course, scoring that rushing touchdown in the second half. And then I think the fourth thing we need to do is we need to pressure Daniel Jones. He was, sorry about that. I did not mean for that to pop up on the screen. But what we need to do, I lost my train of thought, is we need to pressure Daniel Jones. He was not pressured very often in that week 1 game against the Miami Dolphins. I think he was sacked 1 time. So we need to get more pressure on him, need to take him to the ground, need to hit Daniel Jones. And then, of course, we need to force errant passes and force him to make bad decisions with the football, so Pat Surtain and the rest of the secondary can take advantage and get interceptions, and to not have them have a very effective passing game. And then also, obviously, the defense needs to stay consistent as well, but I feel like that's kind of a given. Those are my 4 keys. Let's jump into the injuries here. Of course, we still have Michael Burton and Drew Sanders both on the IR. Drew Sanders should be coming off soon, and Michael Burton is season ending. So, yeah, this is going to be the last video that I put these 2 on here. For the Broncos, next week I'll take them off, and they'll just be the players that have been on the injury report leading up to the week. But then you have Evan Ingram, who did have a calf injury. He will be playing. You got John Franklin Myers. He had a knee injury. He will also be playing, and those are 2 huge players. That is a good thing that they're playing. Evan Ingram provides a different layer to our offense, being a receiving threat at the tight end position. And John Franklin Myers is just one of those guys who's going to pressure the quarterback. So both of them playing is huge. Same thing with Alex Singleton, who broke his thumb, which he just got surgery on, which absolutely sucks. But Alex Singleton is one of the toughest players in the NFL. He's going to be wearing a cast around that thumb. He will be playing, though, on Sunday versus the Colts. 2 players who will not be playing, though: Nate Atkins, he is out with an ankle injury, and Dre Greenlaw is out with a quad injury. Now, I've seen a lot of Broncos fans on Twitter and online just keep complaining, like, when are we going to see Dre Greenlaw? Should we give up on Dre Greenlaw soon? Chill out. He had a very serious injury. He barely played last season coming back from it. I would rather see a fully healthy Dre Greenlaw out later than a partially healthy Dre Greenlaw out there who's underperforming and also has a big chance to re-injure that quad and be out for even longer. So I want him to get fully healthy, be fully back from that injury before he steps onto the field. And once he does step back on, which sounding like it's going to be sooner rather than later, it's going to make a huge impact to our already amazing defense. As for the Colts, I kind of went over some of these guys earlier, but you got running back Tyler Goodson with an elbow injury. He is questionable for the game. Then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, Jalen Jones has a hamstring injury who is out. Edge rusher Leautu Lautu has a hamstring injury, and he is questionable to play. Wide receiver Alex Pierce has a knee injury. He will be playing. Michael Pittman Jr. has a glute injury. He will be playing. Cornerback Charvarius Ward is out with a concussion, so two of their starting guys at the cornerback position are out, so the Broncos, we have to take advantage of this. And then Jalen Travis has a finger injury. He will be playing this Sunday. Moving on to the head coaching matchup, it is going to be Sean Payton versus Shane Steichen. Sean Payton, of course, in his 18th year, third with the Broncos, and you can see his win-loss record. Never tied, has a .620 winning percentage. Yeah, that's pretty good. Then you got Shane Steichen, who was the former OC of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's in his third year with the Colts. He has 18 wins, 17 losses in his 35 games. That's a .514 win percentage. So he's about 500 for his career. And yeah, so we'll have to see. I like Shane Steichen. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Wanted Anthony Richardson to be the franchise guy and all that stuff. We know how that storyline has turned out. We'll just see what happens with Shane Steichen. I think he's a great offensive mind, but that doesn't always equal a great head coach. I think Steichen is solid, but I would give the head coaching matchup to the Broncos. I would just tilt that side, obviously. But yeah. That's Sean Payton versus Shane Steichen. As for the coordinators, the Broncos OC is Joe Lombardi. Broncos defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph. And our special teams coordinator is Darren Rizzi. As for, well, I accidentally have the Titans here. It's the Colts. I made sure to go through a majority of the graphical errors. I thought I got them all. I guess I didn't. But the Colts offensive coordinator is Jim Bob Cooter, which is a crazy name. Their coordinator is Lou Anarumo. Again, sorry for displaying Titans. This is the Colts. And their special teams coordinator is Brian Mason. As for the quarterbacks, we got Bo Nix, who had a rough game in week 1, completing 25 of his 40 passing attempts. Look, I don't mind airing the ball out. I don't mind airing the ball out 40 times. However, we just have to be more efficient. We have to get more runs involved. Obviously, Bo Nix had a 62.5% completion percentage for 176 yards, only had one passing touchdown with 2 interceptions while having a passer rating of a 60. Bo needs to be better. I still think he's shaking off that rush, hoping to see improvement here in week 2, get back to that second half status that Bo Nix was at the end of his rookie season that made us, think we have our franchise quarterback. And I still believe we do have our franchise quarterback. I just think Bo needs to get warmed up and back to that level. I'm hoping it's not going to be a yearly thing where we need to have Bo Nix warm up every week, but got the win, didn't play great. And I'm hoping for Bo Nix to bounce back here in week 2. As for Daniel Jones had a heck of a week 1. 22 for 29, 75.9% completion percentage for 272 yards and a touchdown while having a 115.9 passer rating. And on the ground, he had 7 rushes for 26 yards and another 2 touchdowns. Daniel Jones carved up that Miami Dolphins defense. We'll see if he maintains this form all season long. I don't know if he will, but looked very solid in week 1, and now he's getting a very tough test against one of the best defenses in the NFL, of course, our Denver Broncos. So we'll have to see what Daniel Jones does against them. But let's move on to the running game. The Broncos running back versus the Colts front 7. Last week, J.K. Dobbins in his first game with the Broncos had 16 carries for 63 yards, averaging about 3.9 yards per carry. He scored obviously the touchdown in the second half, and he had 2 receptions for 5 yards. I'd like to see our running backs get more involved in the receiving game. Particularly J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, because I feel like a lot of the passing downs last week, it was Tyler Bidet who was in for those passing situations, and I just wasn't impressed with what he did. So I'd like to see J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey get more targets in the receiving game. As you can see, here's what J.K. Dobbins did last week in his NFL debut. He had 6 carries for 70 yards, no touchdowns, and had a reception for a loss of a yard. So, again, like to see more receiving from our 2 starting running backs. But yeah, we'll see what happens here, obviously, in week 2. Moving to the Colts front seven, they consist of Kwity Paye, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Leautu Lautu, Cameron McGrone, Zaire Franklin, and Joe Bachie. Here's what they did last week against the Miami Dolphins, and it's just these players, these 7 players. They had 18 tackles, 3 pressures, no sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and they blitzed 2 of 5 times. As for the Colts running back against the Broncos front seven, Jonathan Taylor last week had 18 carries for 71 yards and 3 receptions for 27 yards. Did not score last week, but their backup is DJ Giddens, someone who I really think the Broncos liked in the pre-draft process. I think they met with him a couple of times, and yeah, he's with the Colts in his NFL debut. He had 12 carries for 41 yards. Didn't get a reception, but, solid for his debut. 12 carries, 41 yards. And I think that's good, especially when you're playing behind Jonathan Taylor. Then you got the front seven, which consists of Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers, Nick Bonito, Justin Strnad, Alex Singleton, and Jonathan Cooper this week. And here's what they did last week. 19 tackles, 18 pressures, 4 sacks. And I know the team as a whole had 6 sacks, but Jonah Ellis is not starting in the front seven. He's going to get rotated in a lot. And then Jaquan McMillan had a sack. So there's the other 2 that aren't included here from last week. And then you have 10 quarterback hits and 4 blitzes for this Broncos defense, who pressured Cam Ward a whole heck of a lot. Then you got the Broncos receivers versus the Titans corners, and this is a matchup that the Broncos have to win on Sunday if they want to win the game, right? They're missing 2 of their starting corners, so we have to take advantage. You got Cortland Sutton taking on Xavier Howard, the veteran, not at that same level that he was with the Dolphins a few years ago when he led the NFL with 10 interceptions, but still a solid corner. Then you got Marvin Mims versus Mekhi Blackman, and then Troy Franklin versus Kenny Moore. And I'm not saying these guys are going to match up every single play. They might shadow one guy. They might not. Kenny Moore will be in the slot, and then you got obviously the 2 outside guys there. Sutton last week was our best receiver, having 6 receptions on 9 targets for 61 yards, averaging 10.2 per reception, and of course did have that touchdown at the end of the first half to give us our first touchdown of the season, obviously. Then you have Xavier Howard, and you can see his 2023 stats because when I checked, he didn't have anything recorded from last week. Now, that may be wrong, but I couldn't find anything, so I'm defaulting to his 2023 stats where, he was pretty solid, right? Only allowing a 62.9% completion percentage when targeted, 81.3 passer rating. That's not amazing, but I think cornerbacks, when you put stats on the screen, it is some of the most leading and some of the most deceptive stats that there are, right? So I don't really take any stock into this a whole lot. Obviously, I put some into it, but you got to be very careful when judging a player just based off of stats, right? They're nice to put graphically, but obviously you need to watch them play and see how they perform because the stats don't tell the whole story. Then you got Marvin Mims last week, who had 3 receptions on 4 targets for 12 yards, average 4 per carry, or per reception, I should say, and no touchdowns. I'd like to see Marvin Mims get utilized more, right? He was utilized as a gadget guy last season, lining up in the backfield, right, throwing a lot of screens at him, getting him touches. I'd like to see more of that. I would like to see the ball in Marvin's hands a little bit more. Didn't feel like he played a whole lot on offense. I should say, I don't feel like he made a huge impact on offense. I would like to see Marvin Mims utilized a little bit more on the offensive side of the football. Then you got Mekhi Blackman, who last week was pretty solid. 2 completions on 3 targets, 66% completion percentage. Only gave up 20 yards while allowing a 85.4 passer rating. Pretty solid. I'm just, like I said, it's hard with corners. So we're just going to go quickly through this. And then Troy Franklin last week had 1 reception, in his 1 game on the season, had 4 receptions on 6 targets for 44 yards and average 11 yards per reception. I thought he looked pretty solid, right? Didn't see a whole lot of downfield shots last week, but, there was a couple of screens and a couple of nice completions from Bo to Troy Franklin, where Troy picked up a couple of big first downs to keep the drive moving and just to continue that offensive momentum. So I really liked what Troy Franklin did last week in his second-year debut. As for Kenny Moore last week, you can see what he did. Obviously, you see the 129.2 passer rating, and you're like, target Kenny Moore, but I think Kenny Moore is better than that, right? So just hard to tell with the stats, but Kenny Moore will be lining up with whoever is in the slot, and he is one of the better slot corners in the NFL. As for the Broncos tight end situation, Evan Ingram will be playing, and I was a little bit disappointed last week by how much he was utilized in the receiving game. Only had 3 receptions, 4 targets, is kind of crazy. I feel like that should be a little bit higher with 40 passing attempts, right? I'd like to see, I guess it's not bad, but I'd like to see, like, I don't know, maybe like 10 targets. Maybe that's a little bit Maybe that's a little bit much, right? Obviously, Sutton got 9, and he's your wide receiver 1, but I feel like Evan Ingram could also, right? I know he's technically a tight end, but he could be that kind of wide receiver 1 type of player for you. So I'd like to see Evan Ingram get more targets as well, but he had 21 yards, average 7 per reception. As for the Colts linebackers, you can see their stats here. I'm just going to go ahead and click through these really quick. Here's Cameron McGrone. Here is Zaire Franklin, and here is Joe Bachie as they run a 4-3 defense. They're going to have 3 linebackers that we're going to show. As for their safeties played amazing last week. Nick Cross and Cameron Bynum played lights out. I thought they played really, really well. This is an area that the Broncos are going to have to be careful of because their corners, they might have Charvarius Ward out. They might have Jalen Jones out. Be careful of their safeties because after their week 1 performance, I'm a little bit nervous about them. Obviously, it's one game. It's a small sample size, so we'll have to see what happens. But Nick Cross and Cameron Bynum played lights out this past weekend against the Miami Dolphins, so it is a little bit worrying there, even with a couple of their corners out. As for the corner receiver matchup, again, I accidentally put the Titans. I need to lock in. I thought I changed these, but it's Pat Surtain on Michael Pittman Jr. He's probably going to be shadowing him for a majority of the game. Then you got Riley Moss and Alex Pierce, and Jaquan McMillan on Josh Downs, and also expect Jahdae Barron to be rotating in and get some more snaps because he's a defensive weapon. I feel like he can be moved around, so expect Jahdae Barron to get some snaps as well. Last week, Michael Pittman Jr., he had 6 receptions on 8 targets for 80 yards, averaging 13.3 per reception, and he did score last week. He had Daniel Jones' 1 passing touchdown. Surtain, though, I think we all saw what happened last week. He was targeted once, did not allow a completion, and on 34 34 coverage snaps, not defensive snaps, he was not targeted as the nearest defender. So he was lights out. He was elite. Tested once by Cam Ward, passed the test, and he just shut down Calvin Ridley all game when he was on him. So, great job from Pat Surtain. I expect him to shadow Michael Pittman Jr. for a majority of the game. Then you got Alex Pierce, who had a solid game as well. Only 1 reception on 3 targets, but that 1 reception was for a walloping 36 yards. So, Alex Pierce, I do like. I think he's a very solid weapon. He'll be going up against Riley Moss most likely, and Riley Moss had a light-out day, was targeted 7 times by Cam Ward, and obviously that's going to be due to Pat Surtain lining up an opposite field from him. You're not going to really throw Pat's way, so Riley Moss is going to get tested, and he passed the test against Cam Ward in week 1, only allowing 3 completions for a 42.9% completion percentage, only gave up 20 yards, which was a pass rating of a 50.3. Not that the 20 yards had anything to do with, I guess they technically do. I kind of made it sound like they were clumped together. During those 7 targets, he allowed a pass rating of a 50.3, didn't miss a tackle, no touchdowns given up, no interceptions recorded, and defended 2 passes. Then you got Josh Downs, who last week played in a game. Obviously, he played in a game. There's only been 1 game played this season for each team, except for, obviously, the Thursday night game. But he had 2 receptions on 3 targets for 12 yards, averaging 6 per carry. Majority of the targets for wide receivers went to Michael Pittman Jr., obviously. But Josh Downs, he had some targets in there as well. He'll be going up against Jaquan McMillan, who last week allowed 1 completion on his 2 targets, which is obviously 50% completion percentage, which was only 8 yards given up, a 60.4 pass rating, missed 1 tackle, but obviously, every player is going to miss a tackle every now and then. Jaquan McMillan really was solid this week. I know there's been a lot of slack, and A lot of people thinking, oh, Jahdae Barron should start at nickel. Jaquan McMillan is still a really good nickel corner. Let's not forget that. So he locked it down. He was really, really solid against the Titans, and we're looking to move that into this week against Josh Downs. Then Tyler Warren, man, he had some targets. Tyler Warren, I know a lot of Broncos fans wanted, including myself. He was one of those targets I was hoping the Broncos could get. I knew it was a little bit unrealistic, but Colts got themselves a heck of a player. In his NFL debut, he had 7 receptions on 9 targets for 76 yards, averaging 10.9, and he is a phenomenal tight end. I think the Colts fans are going to be very happy that Tyler Warren is their tight end for years to come. Then you got Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad, who are going to have to take care of Tyler Warren, right? Not the greatest coverage, guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Broncos cover Tyler Warren, because I think he could be solid. I think he could be a player that the Broncos need to watch out for. So be on the lookout for Tyler Warren. Here's what Alex Singleton did last week, and here's what Justin Strnad did last week, right? These guys are going to pursue the ball. They're going to get to the ball carrier. They're going to make a ton of tackles, right? Their weakness is in the pass coverage game, right? So that's why we're looking for Dre Greenlaw to come back. But, they were solid, right? The defense is going to pick them up. The defense is going to help them out. But, yeah, they're not the greatest coverage guys. Hoping we can see a little bit of an improvement this week. But, these guys, I'm confident in rushing the passer when they're blitzed. But also, I'm very confident in their ability just to pursue the running back and to get stops that way. I guess get stops on the run. Then you got Brandon Jones and Talanoa Hufanga. Brandon Jones was very, very good in week 1 against the Tennessee Titans, only giving up 14 yards with a passer rating of a 49.3 when targeted. Did miss 2 tackles, which we would like to see him clean up on, especially at the safety position. Can't really be affording those missed tackles, but, like I keep saying over and over, like a broken record, it's week 1. It's a small sample size. Talanoa Hufanga, on the other hand, right, did give up both of the completions when he was targeted for 45 yards, allowing a 118.7 passer rating. The thing he did, though, is he was flying around the field. He was pursuing the ball carrier. He was getting to the ball carrier, and he was making tackles. I think he had like 9 tackles or something, just flying in, helping stop the run, just being a presence pretty much on every defensive play. Talanoa Hufanga was right there near the ball, right? He was making a tackle. He was forcing a fumble. He was all around the field making an impact, so I was very impressed with Hufanga. Pass coverage stats don't really show it, but just the way that Talanoa Hufanga played, I was very, very impressed with. I kind of phrased that word. I was very, very impressed by the way Talanoa Hufanga played in week 1. Then you got the Broncos pass rush facing off against the Colts offensive line. Here are all the players for pass rushing that are going to pass rush for the Denver Broncos, right? You got the edge rushers in Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, Q Robinson, Zach Allen. But then of course Dondre Tillman. And then of course I'm going to include Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers in terms of the pass rushing guys. DJ Jones, more of a run stopper. Malcolm Roach, of course, is on IR right now, I believe. So I think, he's coming back week 5. And then you got guys like Savion Jones, but some guys haven't played, so I guess technically I should take Q Robinson out because he was a healthy scratch last week, but could include Savion Jones in here as well. But I'm just going to include these guys for now. In this group last week, which consists of all these guys minus Q Robinson, they had 10 tackles, 13 pressures, 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, and 6 blitzes against the Tennessee Titans. As for the Colts offensive line, last week they only gave up 1 sack on Daniel Jones while facing 16 blitzes. Daniel Jones was hurried 4 times. He was hit once, and the Colts offensive line gave up 6 pressures, which was an 18.2% pressure percentage. So very, very solid for the guys, right? Obviously, Quentin Nelson's their star on that offensive line, but they got some really good guys on that offensive line as well. Bernard Ryman, Braden Smith, Matt Gonzalez, Tanner Bortolini. That's a pretty solid offensive line for the Indianapolis Colts. As for the Colts pass rush, this is their pass rushing group. They got Kwity Paye, the former first-rounder, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, who's been with the team a couple of years, the former 49er. Then you got first-round pick from 2024, Leautu Lautu, Neville Gallimore, and Samson Abuka. Last week against the Miami Dolphins, they had 8 tackles, 5 pressures, 1 sack with this group, 4 quarterback hits, and they blitzed twice. For the Broncos offensive line, with Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Luke Wattenberg, Quinn Miners, and Mike McGlinchey. Last week, they only gave up 1 sack on Bo Nix. And obviously, sacks can be a quarterback's fault, right? If you're holding on to the ball too long, if you're scrambling, trying to make a play, you can go down. But I'm just crediting sacks against the offensive line. You know, it's not fair because not all of them are their fault, but I'm just giving you a heads up here. They faced 10 blitzes. Bo was hurried 6 times. He was hit 3, and he was pressured 23.8% of his dropbacks, which is okay. Let me just rephrase that. I kind of lost my train of thought there. He was pressured on 23.8% of his dropbacks, which was 10 of his dropbacks last week. As for the field goal kickers, we got Will Lutz, who went 2 for 2 on his field goals, and he made both extra points that he attempted. As for Spencer Schrader for the Colts, he made all 4 of his field goals that he attempted and all 3 of his extra points that he attempted as well. So both kickers are perfect in the young season. As for Marvin Mims, as a returner, returned 4 punts for 47 yards, 3 kicks for 82 yards, and I think the big story is him muffing that 1 punt against the Tennessee Titans. Again, like I mentioned in the recap, it didn't come back to bite us as the defense just sacked Cam Ward twice to take him out of field goal range, but Marvin Mims, who is usually so sure-handed, didn't muff a punt, so hopefully that doesn't happen again this week, but Marvin Mims is still one of the best returners in the NFL. As for the Colts, it's going to be Anthony Gould being their kick and punt returner. And I'm showing his 2024 stats because he really didn't get a chance to return a whole lot of punts and kicks last week against the Dolphins. So using 2024's and the 8 games that he did play, he returned 10 punts for 95 yards and 7 kicks for 206 yards. What are my final thoughts? This is going to be a very interesting matchup because it's still young on the season. What's going to happen, right? The Broncos defense, we looked elite last week, but the offense, kind of rusty. The Colts, their offense looked amazing by Daniel Jones, who I don't think a lot of people expected Daniel Jones to look that good. Was it the Colts being amazing? Was it the Miami Dolphins defense not being great? It'll be interesting to see. But I do like the Broncos defense facing off against Daniel Jones, right? It'll just be interesting to see. But I do like I said, I like the defense for the Broncos here. And I'm hoping that the Broncos offense can bounce back. Of course, as a Broncos fan, I'm going to be biased. I'm going to predict a Denver Broncos win 24-20, going to 2-0 on the year. On the year. But yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my opinions. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below as the support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Parker, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.